Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another podcast. So, today's topic is all about Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the trending topic, at least of the day. So, that's what we're going to be talking about today. And we're going to be specifically talking about what my 2 cents on it. The title of this video is actually going to be called Buyer Beware. Buyer Beware. And you might ask yourself, well, why would I beware of buying Bitcoin when it's going to the freaking moon, right? Like that's what most people are going to say. It's going to the moon, dude. It's going to the moon. And what I have to say to that is hogwash. The thing about Bitcoin and all cryptocurrencies that don't actually, make money like a stock, right? Obviously, a stock is a business. The business makes money. You can value it off of revenue. You can value it off of free cash flow. You can value it on, a whole bunch of different actual metrics, okay? But Bitcoin and all cryptocurrencies, you cannot, because it's just a currency, right? Just something used to exchange for the dollar, right? And if you look up, it's up $565, 1% for the day, and it's literally going up. And I'm not saying that it's not. Again, and also this is all my 2 cents. If you own Bitcoin, good for you. If you own crypto, good for you. If you're making money and you're getting very wealthy off of crypto, then good for you. I'm not dissing and saying you cannot make money in crypto, and I'm not saying that you cannot make money in Bitcoin, blockchain, anything like that. I'm just saying my money is not in here, and here is my buyer beware, and here's why that my money is not in Bitcoin. Okay? So, first thing on the podcast is welcome to everybody that is watching this. This one is not live. I thought I'd do a little bit more of a structured commentary this time as opposed to going live, so that's why. So this is Bitcoin right now. It's $59, and if we go back, let's do just a year. It's been everywhere. It's been as low as 30,000 and as high as, I think we're at 63,000, right? It goes up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. So the price is crazy, right? And it fluctuates a lot. Well, why does the price fluctuate a lot? Well, with crypto specifically, you have to buy and you have to, I want to say, sucker somebody into buying the crypto at a higher price than you bought, okay? So what I mean by that is I buy crypto at $36,927, so $37,000 per Bitcoin. I now have to sell it or get somebody to buy it more than what I paid for it, right? Like, if you want to sell it, somebody has to buy it and somebody has to pay more than you paid. It's called the tulip, the tulip theory, the tulip method, and we're going to get into that. So first of all, what does famous investors have to say about Bitcoin? And before we jump into what famous people have to say about, famous investors have to say about Bitcoin, make sure you're subscribed if you like this kind of content. So, what does Warren Buffett have to say about Bitcoin? He's arguably one of the best investors there are, right? He's definitely in the top 10, if he's not the number one. Is it possible that all these people that are investing in Bitcoin and all the hype stocks right now, that everybody just suddenly became good investors? Is it possible that they're like, all of a sudden, we are now magically great investors? No. Statistically, there's very little great investors. And if all the great investors we already know and identify say to avoid, well, why are they saying to avoid it? Okay, so let's jump into, real quick, what does Warren Buffett have to say about it? Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you are not. We are at 19 subscribers, which seems like, it's a lot. I'm, appreciative that 19 people want to actually see the content. And if we go to our about, we've already affected 1,249 people, which is great. All right. So let's do here, and then let's do what does Warren Buffett think about Bitcoin? What does he think about Bitcoin?
At one point this weekend, you said that Bitcoin, and this was basically, you were asked, Charlie said Bitcoin's like rat poison. You were asked about that comment, and you said, well, it's probably more like rat poison squared. Charlie went on in the meeting to then basically call Bitcoin turds.
He is an expressive sort, isn't he? Maybe when he...
Anybody that doesn't know Charlie Munger, he's very straight, direct to the point. He's like, it is what it is. I'm too old to like sugarcoat. This is how it is. Warren, he's more of a people pleaser. He more sugarcoats things, which is why Charlie Munger will call it turd, rat poo, piece of shit, and Warren will say, wait, it's bad. It's not great, but he sugarcoats it.
He gets a little older, he'll mature.
I just want to ask you about that because it sparks so much controversy, and particularly on Twitter and some of the places where you might expect people who are trading in cryptocurrency to be pretty...
So this is in 2018, as you can tell, and it was around $9,000 per Bitcoin, which is still a lot of money.
What is it about Bitcoin that gets you guys so fired up?
Well, when you buy a farm, you look at the crop every year and what prices are, and you decide whether it was a satisfactory investment. I mean, you look to the asset itself and what it produces for you.
Correct. So any kind of company, farm, stock, you look at the company and you see how much assets it produces.
We buy a business. We look at what the business earns and decide how we feel about it in terms of what we paid. But we are buying something that at the end of the period, we not only have what we bought in the first place.
So they don't have just what they bought in the first place, but they also have the profit that's generated by it.
But we have something that the asset produced.
Mm-hmm.
And when you buy non-productive assets, all you're counting on is whether the next person is going to pay you more because they're even more excited about another next person coming along. But the asset itself is created.
It reminds me a lot of a pyramid scheme where you have a lot of people on the bottom, a very limited number of people on top, and the people on the bottom are like, wait, if you sell this much, you'll get this. And then you get to sell this much and you get this. And it goes all the way up the pyramid. This is obviously not a pyramid scheme, but it does remind me of it. Because now people at the bottom, people buying it, have to now sell and they have to, the price has to be higher than what they bought or they lost money, right? So somebody buys it for $10,000 and they're like, well, in order to make money, I now have to sell it for a profit of X. So we'll say 20,000. When it gets to 20,000, they sell, etc., etc.
Nothing. One of the interesting things, for example, is gold. If you go back to the time of Christ and you look at how many hours of labor you had to give up in order to buy an ounce of gold, and you take it forward to now, you'll find the compound rate maybe 1/10 or 2/10 of 1%. And then you have to insure it during that time and make sure somebody doesn't steal it from you and everything. But it doesn't produce anything.
It's true. Gold.
Productive assets. You can pay too much for a productive asset, but I bought a farm in the 1980s, and
so what he's saying here is, and gold's 1,300 at the time of that video. You can pay too much for a productive asset. You can pay too much for a hype stock like Tesla, but you can also pay too much for a non-productive asset. But at least with the productive asset of, say, you own a business, it's still producing you money, and you've obviously just overpaid. But over a period of time, the money will eventually, hopefully, pay for what you actually paid for, right? So say you paid a 10% upcharge, then say you make 1% a year, it takes 10 years, and you made the 10% back, right? Bitcoin is the sense of, like, you buy something, a non-productive asset, because it doesn't actually make you money, and then you have to sell it for whatever, you have to sell it for more than what you bought, and you have to pray that the market goes up and down. And that reminds me too much of gambling. And gambling is like, let's pray that I hit the lottery. Let's pray that I make this, right? That this goes up 10%, 20% to the moon. And obviously eventually Bitcoin has to stop price-wise, because one, people are going to stop paying for it. Two, it can only go up so high. If it keeps going at the rate that it is over the next just 50 years, it's bigger than the whole U.S. economy, or the whole, global economy. So you got to be wary and spectacle. I do think that there's money to be made in it. Once again, I think there's good money to be made in Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, NFTs, and stuff like that. But I think it's short-term money, and I don't think any cryptocurrency out there right now, Bitcoin, Doge, anything, is going to replace the U.S. dollar. There might be one. There might be one, but I don't think it's any of the ones that are out right now.
And every year, look at how much it produced, the way of soybeans and corn. And at the end of that period, I've still got the farm, and I've gotten some significant income off of it. Apartment house, operating business. But if you and I buy various cryptocurrencies, they're not going to multiply. They're not going to be a bunch of rabbits sitting there in front of us. They're just going to sit there. And I got to hope next time you get more excited after I bought it from you, and then maybe I'll get more excited and buy it from you. And actually, we could sit in the house by ourselves, and we could keep running up the price between the two of us. But at the end of the time, there's one Bitcoin sitting there, and now we got to find somebody else, and they come to an end. I mean, those.
So, that's a greater fool theory. That's what you're saying.
Well, yeah, it's buying something because you expect the pool of people who want to buy it because they want to sell it to somebody.
Let's look up the greater fool theory. All right, let's see what it says. Let's just look up the greater fool theory in general. All right. The greater fool theory argues that prices go up because people are able to sell overpriced securities to a greater fool, whether or not they are overvalued, though that is, of course, until there are no greater fools left. I feel like that's pretty close to what we're talking about, right? Like, think about it. So, somebody has to be the greater fool. Let's keep going.
Somebody else will grow, and you know, it's wonderful because it does create a rising price, does create more buyers, and people think I've got to get in on this, and it's better if they don't understand it. That's the other thing about not.
Have you guys realized that one, it's the mentality of, yo, you got to get in before it gets too high. I've heard that the whole time. I get text messages and calls, and people are calling me, yo, what do you think about Bitcoin? Should I get in on Bitcoin? Or, you know, you should get in on Bitcoin before it goes up even more. Like, it reminds me of all the pyramid schemes that people are like, yo, do you want to be a part of my new business opportunity? Like, that's what that reminds me of. So I just don't do it. Plus, if you don't understand it, then it's easier for people that do understand it to, like, you know, make it a little bit not phasey, a little bit blurred, right? Like, for example, if you don't know law and you have a lawyer and they have a better lawyer and your lawyer doesn't know law, or he barely knows law, they could be like, well, this says here, it might not even be applicable, but, you know, he can blur the lines between, you know, distinction and reality because of he knows more.
But if you don't understand it, you get much more excited than if you understand it. I mean, if you buy a bond that says it's going to pay you 4% a year, you're not going to get any pleasant surprises. She's going to pay you 4% a year. 4%. But if you can have anything you want to imagine. If you just look at something and say that's magic, you can do it with shark's teeth or seashells or anything. And you know, they did it with tulips in the 17th century in Amsterdam, and they'll do it again. I mean,
some of you might be wondering, what's the tulips? 1700 Amsterdam. I'll get a video for that. Tulips, Amsterdam, 1700s. They actually sold and used tulips. Let's find a video. This is probably the best one. Nice and short.
Tulips, which are native to Central Asia, became a very popular flower in the Ottoman Empire in the 16th century, especially during the reign of Suleiman the Magnificent. During this period, it not only became a status symbol, but also came to represent God, so the plant was cultivated in the royal gardens and displayed in a great deal of artwork. In 1554, the tulip found its way to Europe when the Holy Roman Empire's ambassador in Istanbul, Buffett, sent the first tulip bulb to Austria. Fast forward to 1593, and a famed Flemish botanist, Carolus Classius, planted several tulip bulbs in his botanical garden. Over time, he proved their ability to grow in the harsh conditions of the Low Countries. Plus, he discovered the tulip breaking virus. This virus made the flowers blue. Plus, some say
this is actually another video, so we're going to back out. Let's do tulip, Amsterdam, tulips used for money. Currency would be a better word to use it. Explain the similarities between. This is probably gonna be biased to Bitcoin, but I'm for it, I guess. Actually, hold on. Let's go to the economic
Welcome
bubble.
to Holland. It was here that 400 years ago we first witnessed the extraordinary effects that money and the market can have on our collective minds, and how it can lead to pretty mad behavior.
Since the 2008 financial crisis, there has been much talk of economic bubbles, and every now and then the story of the Dutch tulip mania of 1637 pops up.
Yep.
During this mania, single tulip bulbs were traded for amounts of money worth upscale houses in Amsterdam. How this happened and why tulips of all things were the centerpiece of this.
So we can use Bitcoin as a tulip, but tulips were literally the cost of houses. A flower that dies is worth a cost of houses.
Economic folly will be explained in the coming few minutes.
Welcome to Chicharane. It entered the modern stock exchange, successfully invaded Britain, founded
Let's forward a little bit.
around a decade for a seed to grow into a flower. Then, after just a few years of show, the flower dies. The tulips do produce offspring in the form of seeds, but those again will take 10 years of care until they grow into flowers. Luckily, however, you can make a few clones every year the flower blossoms. These clones will become flowering bulbs in a much shorter period of only 3 years. The second important characteristic is that tulips only blossom during a few years.
So
Alright, so we don't
rare. And
we don't
due to
care
And
about
the future
tulips.
is a derivative
We wanna
known as a future. So imagine I know I can sell the tulip future to my brother, who is willing to pay 25 florins for it.
I then reason that I can either keep the rights to the flower myself, or sell it on again to a rich friend of mine who will pay up to 50 florins for such a rare specimen.
So what did we learn? We learned that tulips were used as a form of currency back in like 1620s or something like that. And people would, it's the price of houses today, and it's something that dies. And how is it worth the money? Somebody has to buy the tulips for more than what you paid, right?
I mean, people, they like to speculate. They like to gamble. And
Those are keywords right there. People like to people like to gamble, and people like to speculate, which is obviously predicting the future, which could be considered gambling if you don't have a good foundation.
you can get something, particularly if you have something half plausible going on. If you had bought gold in 1942 and you say, we might lose the war, we might have to run off to some other country, and so let's put our assets in gold, you would have less than a penny for every dollar you got from owning stocks. Less than a penny. Now, somebody calls that a store of value. I mean, I think they're delusionary.
Okay. Andrew has a question too. Andrew.
Hey, Warren, related to this issue of Bitcoin, you saw that Goldman Sachs just last week announced that they were going to create effectively a trading operation around cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin in particular. You've been an investor in Goldman. What do you think of their decision to do that?
Doesn't matter to him because it's going to make him money.
They probably think that lots of people are going to get very excited about, and maybe already are, but they think there's money to be made trading them. I don't think they're expressing an opinion on the
I think they're
ultimate
just.
value. I would be very surprised if the top partners of Goldman are selling their Goldman stock and putting it into Bitcoin.
And they're not. You can tell, right? Like, look at their share change. Obviously, Goldman's like, wait, we can capitalize on people thinking that this is profitable.
But
And I mean, we do have pretty similar to Bitcoin and stuff right now, right? Like, all of our money's digital. It's in banks. It's just ones and zeros. The only difference is blockchain, which is the huge part.
I want to cover this subject now because my friend Charlie will come on at 8 o'clock and he'll tell him what he will say.
Well, that's my whole entire point. I do want to ask Charlie about it because I think when he talked about the turds, he was referring to this. He said if you're trading this, it's like watching other people trading turds and deciding you want to get a piece of that.
Which, I
Well,
mean...
you're not going to get me to comment on that.
Hopefully Charlie's not awake and
Well,
not watching
the truth is
right
people
now.
do trade on very crazy things
right,
over time.
let's
You
do
know, imagine people selling their homes to buy a
Charlie
tulip.
Munger Bitcoin.
If people think they're going to make money the next day, and worse yet,
All right, so we got his 2 cents on it. Let's do, this one is 3 minutes. So let's start this one. Actually, I like it.
Now that the crypto market overall is valued at $2 trillion, do you still consider cryptos as worthless artificial gold?
Well, I knew there'd be a question on Bitcoin or crypto, and I thought to myself, well, I've watched these politicians dodge questions all the time, and I always find it kind of disgusting when they do it. But the truth is, I'm going to dodge that question because we probably got hundreds of thousands of people watching this that own Bitcoin, and we probably got 2 people that are short. So we got a choice of making 400,000 people mad at us and unhappy, or
See,
making
this
2
is
people happy, and that's just a dumb equation. So I thought of
See, this is typical Warren. He's like, I don't want to piss everybody off, so I'm not going to say anything.
But we had a governor one time in Nebraska, and a long time ago. But he would get a tough question. What do you think about property taxes, or what should we do about schools? And he'd look right at the person. He'd say, "I'm all right on that one." And then he'd just walk off. Well, I'm all right on that one, and maybe we'll see how Charlie is.
Well, those who know me well are just waving the red flag of the bull. Of course, I hate the Bitcoin success. And I don't welcome a currency that's so useful and to kidnappers and extortionists and so forth, nor do I like just shuffling out a few extra billions and billions and billions of dollars to somebody who just invented a new financial product out of thin air. So
I don't hold that same view, but
I think I should say modestly that I think the whole damn development is disgusting. And
he thinks it's disgusting. And if we look at this one,
Bitcoin is worthless artificial gold, which if it succeeded would facilitate a lot of illicit activity. Now that is not something I think the world needs. And the fact that it's clever computer science doesn't mean that it should be widely used and that respectable people should encourage other people to speculate in it. Bitcoin reminds me of Oscar Wilde's definition of fox hunting, the pursuit of the uneatable by the unspeakable.
Well, it sounds better than what I used before.
that's true. What he used before was turds, and so that's what reputable people have to say about Bitcoin. And if we go back over here to the chart, look at that. It's up 2%. So just from the time of this video, it's up a whole 1%. But we have to ask ourselves, why is it up? Is it up due to it making more money? Is it up due to more asset purchases, more liability, or less liabilities? Any data like that? Well, no. It's up because people think that they can buy it at this price, and it's going to go higher, and then they can sell it. And as we've seen before, if you sell a lot of Bitcoin, it goes down, because everything, obviously, if you sell any stock a lot, it'll go down in enough quantity. And the 52-week range was 13,000 to 66,000. So what is it actually worth? We don't know. And my buyer beware is just because I don't invest things I don't understand. This is the first thing. Second thing, I only invest in producing assets, meaning worst case scenario, the company still produces money, even if I bought it for a horrible price, right? And I'm also a value investor. That means I have to buy something at a reasonable price where I think that I can make a reasonable return. I think that a whole bunch of people that are shorting Bitcoin are making very, 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 very good money. But I don't know how long term that is. For all I know, in the next 10 years, Bitcoin could be at 100,000. It could be at 0, and it doesn't produce any money. So, and I mean, on the other side, it does do a lot of illicit activity and stuff like that, but we weren't even factoring that in because you can do illicit activity with anything, right? And there's a lot of different cryptocurrencies out there, but I just would recommend that you specifically do your research, look at it and say, is this something I want in? And if so, why? And have good reasons why. Because if you don't understand it and you just want to get in because it's going to the moon, that's a very bad reason in my book, right? Anything that is talked about and that's going to the moon should probably be avoided because it means the price is probably already too high, right? There's many different examples of stocks right now that are going to the moon. And if you bought it right now, you would lose so much money if it crashed. But anyways, that's where I'm going to end the video. Just beware, and if you own Bitcoin and you're making money on it, good job. If you own, any kind of other cryptocurrencies and you own you own it and you're making money, good job. But I just want to make this video so most people know that, first of all, the people that can afford a full Bitcoin, are pretty few and far between, and they're buying quite a bit of them. But just be really wary on it and watch it closely. Because in an instant you can either make $1 million, yes, but you could also lose $1 million. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you guys in the next one.